So I'm calling it the fearless soul. So not to make it scary, but really to allow ourselves to maybe push away a little bit the fear that we may have, particularly maybe even right at this moment because you don't know exactly what I'm going to be doing with you. But for sure, it will be something where I'm hoping you'll become in some way creative in a more meaningful way. So that's the sort of the add-on that I want to give into your own team discussions around what creativity is. I want to try and see if I can pair creativity with meaning and dig more deeper on a human level. So that's the objective. But anyone can tell me what this is? Triangle, that's good. Sorry? Maslow hierarchy, yeah, nice. What else? Very logical answer here. Fair, triangle, but hey, it's good. Anything else? Pyramid, yeah. Okay, what else could it be? Piece of chocolate, why not? Yeah, why not? Broken in a different way. Symbol, yeah, exactly. Anything else?
Example.
An example for something could be? It's a great, a rainbow.
It's a frame for color.
Frame for color. Sorry, a mountain, exactly. Yeah. A grave. Yeah, could be anything. I mean, I love just asking this question because it always shows we can imagine anything we want. I mean, yes, it is a triangle because we've learned that this is a triangle. At least it could be a pyramid as well. It could also be a mountain. Those are probably the most associated with this. But we can imagine anything, right? And it's so interesting now, whoever did name something, to try and think, where did that thought come from, right? Where did the grave come from? Pyramid. That's good. Otherwise I would start getting shaky. Oh dear, what's happening? But yeah, where are these thoughts actually coming? And often our thoughts are generated out of some experience that we have. So maybe the mountain, maybe you live near mountains, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just an association that you had at this point in time. But just imagine that you can imagine everything that you want associated with this pyramid. And my imagination at this point in time is also quite logical, and I'm going to imagine this is a business, right? This is an organization. This is a top-down organization. You have at the top, you have your leaders, and at the bottom, you have everyone working for it. And I didn't really say too much about myself when we had the 2-minute introduction, but maybe to give you a little bit of understanding where I come from and why I associate this with a business, really, very, very boring, not very creative, is that I was in business for 20 years, in the digital business, running agencies, or rather being part of agencies in different parts of the world. And then my last gig was actually running an agency out of Berlin here. And you know, when running an agency, maybe some of you can associate with this, if not all of you can associate with this, I was in this moment of always balancing these three elements, right? Getting the right use out of every person. We just had the word chargeability outside in the room. Then making sure that we've got really great products, so that these products go out to our clients and they're really innovative. Oh, and by the way, they better be profitable as well, right? So balancing all of this the whole time. And it's quite a difficult task. And any of you that are in any way associated with finding the right teams and then having these conversations, well, do I go freelancing? Do I bring someone out of my organization into the team? You're probably having this conversation around profit quite a lot, or you're having a conversation, well, this person isn't really the right fit. Now, what bothers me about this is, and what did bother me as well at the time, was all I'm doing in this triangle, which is a business right at this point in time, is trying to say, how can I efficiently put these people into this organization in order to get some kind of quality product that will win in the market, i.e. for the client, either be something that is of benefit to its top line, so it's going to generate more sales, or it's going to be something at the bottom line where it will be, some kind of technology that we put in play, and then it will drive more, efficiency or more machines that don't need people anymore. So this was the conversation: efficiency, winning in the market through the product that we were doing, and then ultimately having us become a profit-driven organization. And I really now today, when I look at it, think, why? Why are we doing this? Is this something that we want to continue the whole time? And I can understand business 101. I know how to, at least I try to run a business. And then I started to, after realizing, if we're doing all of these digital products, and if digitalization is the new norm, as we know already, it's there, we don't have to think or talk about it anymore, then what is happening to us people? What is happening to us humans in this process? And how are we humans actually in this organization? And if we think about new ways of working, if we think about more remote working, more virtual working, what's happening now amongst us as human beings? And for me, I then started to think about, well, this organization here really has a backbone, and in the classical form, this backbone is nothing more than a fear-based, stress-based organization. Now, why is that? Because one, let's say the top backbone there, is we have our nervous system, and our nervous system is continuously trying to allow us to survive, meaning we will try and, just like Jan was saying, we come into the room and we're not necessarily going to yet talk to anyone because maybe we're a little bit fearful, it's a bit of discomfort to actually go to someone. So we have this notion in our nervous system of just making sure that we're in a comfort place, we're in a comfort zone. So this is continuously running while we're in an organization. Then the second is our psychological sort of social system within an organization, and that is where we are really triggered to think about ourselves. I know, just think about it. In your teams, if something is crunching and you have a deadline, do you think, and honestly answer this for yourself, do you think about the team or do you think about yourself first? What does that mean for me? Do I have to now run a late shift? Do I have to, help the others so that we get this done? Do I really want that? Just, ask yourself. I'm sure some of you are, brilliant and you will always think about the we, but not about the I. But maybe some of us or most of us will actually think about the I. And that's because psychologically we've kind of trained ourselves within organizations through things like individual goals or through things like performance management, that it's all about the I. And then the third thing about this fear and stress-based organization is what I would call the social reward system. So I already spoke about performance management and individual goals, and maybe some of you are still in this system of having yearly reviews, and every 6 months or every year you come together, you give your feedback, and then you get your either promotion or you get a certain amount of money. I know, anyone still have that these days in their organization? No? No one? One person? That's it? Two? Maybe? Wow, that's great. So the rest of you are all, there's no performance management anymore. Some of you are obviously freelancers. Yeah, I'm sure, some of you I know are freelancers. I would have thought in some organizations still there would be this, but even better. But then ask yourself the question, are you thinking about why you go to work? And if I ask you, why do you go to work?
To move things.
To move things?
Forward.
Okay, nice. How about yourself? Why would you go to work every day?
Asking me? I love my work.
You're right. Okay, that's good. So you love it. It's there. It's what you want to do. Nice. How about yourself?
Evolve.
Evolve. And do you have that space to evolve? Perfect.
Change perspectives.
Change perspectives. And that's given to you on a day-to-day as well?
Yeah, maybe not every second day.
Not always easy.
Not
I saw your hand go up with the performance management. How about yourself? Why do you go to work every day?
To learn something new.
To learn something.
Myself and others.
Okay. And that's also, you feel that every day you're being given that opportunity, which is fantastic. Really nice. Okay. So in respect, I often get the answer of, well, actually, either I go to work to earn money or I go there because I really love the people, or I go there because, as many of you have now said, you evolve yourself, you really like the job, you're able to grow in that job. But most of the time, people are in their roles to earn the money, to be able to then accumulate more wealth and then do whatever they believe they may do at some point, whether it's buying a nice house or whether it's traveling somewhere. So you may be asking, okay, so why all of this, right? What does this have to do with creativity? And for me, I would love us, and we've started already just in this collective, to think about how we would actually organize ourselves to drive a different type of organization, right? How would we actually make it really possible that we do, as some of you are already today, live and evolve in work with the work that we're doing? And I think that many of us are actually not that happy at work. I think that it's astounding that there is a lot of depression and burnouts within organizations. So I think there is something to be done in organizations, shifting them to a different type of being. Now, the Pixar founder, or Steve Jobs and Ed Catmull, who founded Pixar, definitely said the real goal of what we're doing is to have a positive impact in the world. I was certainly inspired by this, not necessarily from a perspective of I'm going to change the world, but I was inspired when I then did leave my role running an agency. I did think that what I'm doing isn't really making an impact. Of course, I felt that I was making an impact to the people around me. I hope I was. I think I could safely say that if I were to ask anyone in that group, they would say yes. But I wasn't necessarily, with what I was doing, making the impact that I then started to realize I wanted to make. What does that mean? So as running the business, I was more looking at numbers the whole time. And I didn't feel like I was actually creating anything anymore, because it was becoming so much more data-driven, this role that I was in. And I wanted to do more than just simply look at the numbers. And equally, as I said, with all the digital products and services that we were creating as a team, what was happening on the organization, on the client side, was they weren't able yet to bring the people along while we were creating these great digital products. So I did feel like I had a responsibility for these clients of how to bring the people along and not just deliver on the digital products and services. Coming back to, I think, our egos, and again, the context of business is shaping our ego, which in a lot of cases is good. I don't want to say ego is bad, but sometimes our ego does get us, and we want to believe that we know what the meaning of life is, or we want to believe that we can save the world, and in fact it's just our ego trying to be something really great. And it's sometimes more our mind talking than what we actually should be doing. And I'll take us to the next point is, I actually believe that the more vulnerable that we can be, the more humble or the more timid, is at least what I'm now picking up on, then that's where really creativity or innovation or change can birth. And sometimes I think we don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable. We don't allow ourselves to really be in contact with each other. The question, though, becomes, well, how do we become vulnerable, right? It's scary. It's like, shit, I don't want everyone to know what this is, who I really am, or that I have fears. I'm not perfect. But I think that if we think about it now in the context of creativity, if we can show ourselves as vulnerable as we can, then that's where I think beauty arises. That's where, now coming back to how you've been thinking about creativity, more from a human perspective, at least in my interpretation, is where things can really beautifully happen. And this may seem very common sense, but when we actually experience it, I don't think, at least I'll make the assumption, that we're always there yet. Of course we know it here. Of course you're probably saying, yeah, right, we've been there, done that. But are we actually living it? Are we actually being that? So, I've tried to break down, how I've been thinking about, okay, how can the organization then be built? You know, do we need different types, ways of working? Do we need new spaces to help us be more vulnerable? Do we need to have something that is a different backbone to how I explained before? And I've come down to discover, at least for me, and this could be input for yourselves in your continuation of creativity or thinking about creativity, that there are 3 elements in the backbone that I think are necessary to really let creativity and then innovation and change happen. And the first is just being present with one another. And we may feel as though we're being present, and as Jan was saying earlier when we arrived, you know, let's make sure that we're actually seeing each other, let's make sure that we're hearing each other. That is part of being present. But also, you know, being responsive to the moment, so whatever you're hearing right now, be there in thought and then respond to that. Or allow things like you did just now when hearing the music, allow things just to emerge and see what happens then. You know, instead of being in the thought that happens next. Or the mind, the ego that's trying to trick us out and is telling us something else. So I'm going to do another experiment with you to just try and experience what it means being present with the other. It's another 3-minute experience. And this time you're going to be in pairs. And you're going to look at each other for 3 minutes into the eyes. And you're just going to check out what you see there, right? Without judgment, if you can. You're not going to express anything. You're just going to be there for 3 minutes with the other and just see what that does with you, right? Being present in this moment. First of all, to the emotional part, and I'm sure all of you have seen this video and have seen the artwork from Maria Abramovich, where she's just sitting in a gallery or in an art museum, and is sitting there, and people can come up and then sit opposite her. If you haven't seen it, please look at the video. It's really touching. And ultimately, because people are sitting longer than 3 minutes, it does usually then you make yourself so vulnerable and so open that it does bring something up in you that you're transforming, that you're changing. And I have with my partner, this somehow doesn't work anymore. With my business partner, that we sit there, and when we're thinking of new ideas or having to be a bit more creative in our thinking, then we just sit there and ask ourselves the question and then just look at each other and then see what arises. And to the point of maybe having conversation or having a talk, what we then do is we just sort of throw out what comes to mind. Because again, going back to this example of the triangle, all of our creativity is emerging from within us. And to your point, what we're seeing and believing to see in the other is probably a reflection of our own self, because we're making it up. We don't know what the other is really thinking or how she or he is feeling. We're making that up, or we're interpreting it. So it's a beautiful way to let, at least now looking at creativity more from a process perspective, let things just emerge by being present with the other and having that occur. And so that's a thought for you. Moving forward, I'm not sure if this works. So that's one backbone. The second backbone, there are 3 if you remember in this circle that I drew, is this horrible word called purpose. That we've so stressed now that we don't know what purpose really means anymore. And I want to give you my definition of purpose, because I think that when we are wanting to be creative and do whatever we feel we want to bring into the world, whatever we're passionate about, whatever we love to bring into the world, then that's what we should really be doing every day. And the way that I see purpose is, and hopefully you can follow my mind, is breaking it down into 4 pieces. I think the purpose is something that we do have in us. What does that mean? Firstly, we are born, and it's something, we're very unique when we're born. We're very unique now as well, but when we're born, we're obviously bringing something unique into the world. And this is what I would call an essence. There is an essence to us that doesn't leave us from the day we are born to the day that we are dying. The second element is, how do we bring this essence that's within us into the world? So bringing that into the world is the second piece. Let me give you an example. For me, I recognize that I have something that is very expansive. This is an essence of mine, that it's sort of expansive. Maybe even call it expansive love. That's how I feel if I really dig deep down into me. What is my essence? And I bring this into the world of work for the time being. But I want to allow others to feel just as expansive as I can feel sometimes for myself. So that's the second, is to bring into the world. And then I choose in the context where I want to do this. This would be for me in the world of work. And that can change however many times. I may bring it to schools. I may bring this essence of mine into the world of climate change, whatever I feel is right for me. And then the fourth area would be, what do I want to leave behind? What's that legacy that I'm trying to leave behind? And for me, it would be to say to everyone, or is to say to everyone, you are as expansive as you want to make yourself be. That's it. You can be as expansive as you want to be. And I try and bring this into the world of work. So that's how I define my purpose. But again, everyone is different. But I think when we're thinking about creativity, then we should have an understanding of what is it that is meaningful to me? Is it bringing and inspiring others, bringing humor to the table? What is it that I love doing? What is it that I truly am good at? I have competencies that I've collected over time. And what is it that I value? And these are the things that maybe can give you an indication of what is your purpose, meaning what is it that you want to contribute into this world. The third and final, sort of for me, again, what can really drive creativity, being that we said vulnerability would be the birthing of creativity. And I think the last is really to be compassionate with one another, and maybe just to finish on a high note and not to feel as though we're still in this ether of music and maybe narratives. I'd love you to just share with one another, so the pairing that you had earlier when you were just looking in each other's faces, maybe just say something kind to the other. What it is that you maybe saw, or what you felt, or what was there in that moment. Just express that to the other and just see that you're giving and being of kindness, doing a duty of kindness to the other. So let me just try and wrap the experiences, but also some of hopefully the thoughts that may then fall back into your team exercise. And again, for me at least, it's important to break out of the mold again that we've created, and particularly what is being, in my experience at least in organizations, has been put upon us. And in order to break out of the mold, I think we need to really start with ourselves and know how we can become vulnerable again, vulnerable to ourselves as well, so that we can then really process from ourselves the creative thinking, the creativity that we have. And the ways that I believe that is possible is, one, to be present not only with ourselves, but also to be present with the other, or with the others. So maybe having that thought of how we can just be together and just let emerge and know that though everyone is processing somehow the same question. The second is to just have a better understanding of ourselves, like, where do I see meaning? Where do I see value? Where is it that I can bring some value, or what is it that I love doing? So what we are coining with purpose, which is a big word and I really don't like anymore. And then the third being just this compassion, so being of, demonstrating kindness to each other, demonstrating this listening, so actioning empathy, and having that with one another as well, because that will create usually a far more safer space to allow then again to have the most wonderful or beautiful ideas be created in the group. So that's where I'm, at least at the moment, thinking of where creativity is, but I look forward to hearing more about what your teams are saying and whether any of this is resonating or whether you have a completely different take on it. So I appreciate you going through these experiments with me. They were definitely deep. If you feel like you need to talk to me in some way about what you experienced there, what was there, please do. I'm definitely here today and then tomorrow as well. And and then we'll see tomorrow to maybe take another exercise, not quite as tough as you just did as a group. So thank you very much for being here with me.